It's me, hi, being lazy and not creative for the second video in a row where I bring back an intro from years past. Back in 2015, for my review of Southpaw, I did a boxing intro, which I then reused months later for my review for Creed, which I then reused again 3 years later for my review of Creed 2. So, if you want to cringe or laugh, take a look.
Ow! Why did I even try this?
What is up, everybody? RandomRandomMan here. I hope everyone out there is continuing to stay safe and be well during this unpredictable time, as I am here bringing you my review for Creed 3. Now, the plot of this sports drama basically follows our title character, Adonis Creed, played by Michael B. Jordan, who is both thriving in his career and family life. But when a childhood friend and former boxing prodigy, played by Jonathan Majors, resurfaces, the face-off is more than just a fight. Going into this movie, I was looking forward to seeing it. Now, this is technically the 9th film in the ever long-running Rocky film franchise, which, to give my brief thoughts on it, starting with the 1976 Best Picture Oscar-winning classic, I love it. I think it's one of the best sports films ever made, and it shot its creator/star, Sylvester Stallone, to superstardom. It then spawned 5 sequels, which Stallone himself would direct most of. Some are better than others, but I think that there's a lot of fun to be had with these films. Then, in 2015, almost 4 full decades since the original, we got Creed, directed by Ryan Coogler, with Stallone reprising his role as Rocky Balboa and introducing Michael B. Jordan as Adonis Creed, the son to Apollo Creed, who is the opponent turned friend of Rocky Balboa. I love this movie. Not only was it one of my favorite movies of 2015, but it's also my favorite film in the franchise since the original. Then, 3 years later, in 2018, we got Creed 2, directed by Stephen Caple Jr., which, while I don't think holds a candle to the 2015 film, I still think it is quite enjoyable, very entertaining, bringing back a lot of callbacks to Rocky 4, which admittedly is my favorite sequel of that initial slate of 6 films, and yeah, I thought it was still well made. And now we have Creed 3, which had me wondering what could be done in continuing the story of Adonis Creed. And what did turn my head and made me interested was seeing how it would be the feature directorial debut of Michael B. Jordan himself. It looked like we were going to dive deeper into Adonis's past in further connection to the first Creed film. This is also the first film in the overall Rocky franchise to not have Sylvester Stallone as Rocky Balboa, though Stallone still serves as a producer here, and I know there is some real-life drama involving him and the rights to his character, which I'm not going to get into as it has nothing to do with the actual quality of Creed 3, which, luckily for me, I was able to see a day early before general release. At the time I'm recording this, it is Wednesday night on March 1st, and I saw it in theaters where it is only currently available. Starting out with the cast and their performances, we have Michael B. Jordan reprising the title role of Adonis Donnie Creed. Now, by my estimation, I think that this is his signature film role, which shot him up to further stardom. And speaking of that, he recently in real life just got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for his film work. So congrats to Jordan there. I thought he was excellent in Ryan Coogler's feature directorial debut, Fruitvale Station, and then working with him again for the second time on the first Creed film. Again, I think that film really shot him up and showed what he could do as a performer. And now going through and playing this character for the 3rd time on film while also directing himself, I think that he does a remarkable job again here. At this point in his life, Donnie is retired from boxing and is training up-and-coming fighters, which then has him thrown in for a loop when he runs into his old friend, Damian Dame Anderson, played by Jonathan Majors, which, speaking of him, I mentioned in my previous review for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania that this looks to be Majors' major year in film. I thought he was one of the bright spots of Quantumania and playing Kang, and he is certainly a bright spot here in Creed 3. As a character, he is complex to where he has a connection to Adonis as to their past and being troubled together. And then when he comes back into his life after almost 2 full decades behind bars, there is a real conflict here, and there is a lot more emotion and weight that is felt. And I think that this also helps separate this movie from the rest of the Rocky franchise in helping shape them into their own, which I'll get into more later. But with Majors as a performer, not only does he have the physique to show that he is capable in the ring or wanting to really box, though he wants to do more than just that to get back at the world, he just also further shows off what range he has as an actor, being jokey at times, but also stone cold serious at times, especially when he is in his zone and fighting it out. We also have Tessa Thompson return here as Bianca, the loving wife to Donnie. I loved her in the previous 2 films. I thought the chemistry between herself and Jordan was so infectious. I loved them as a couple. I do think she is more sidelined here compared to the other films, but that doesn't make her less prominent as a character because she is very much a place of solace for Creed as a character to really take in and also show themselves raising their daughter. Which, by the way, shout out to Mila Davis-Kent as Amara, who is absolutely adorable in this film. I loved the little moments between herself and Jordan as daughter and father respectively here. And then also reprising her role from the previous 2 films is Felicia Rashad as Adonis'S mother, who is also lovely to see. Also coming back is Wood Harris as Duke, one of the trainers at the gym where Creed is at, and he has a much more prevalent role this time around in this film to really give a warning to Creed as to the danger of possibly bringing Dame on as a new protege and help him really rise up in the ranks of boxing, though very quickly and again to a lot of caution. Harris, I think, is great here as well. We also briefly see Florian Matonu briefly reprise his role as Victor Drago from the previous film, but really with the core cast of performers here, I think that everyone does an outstanding job with the direction being brought out by Jordan himself, which, speaking of that, getting into the way this movie is helmed overall, Jordan, as a first-time feature film director, steps into the ring, no pun intended, with a lot of assurance as to how he is telling a new chapter for Creed. He calls back a bit to the first film in the troubled background that Donnie had, and also wants to bring a new sense of showing how he is now successful with his career and family life, but then throwing a wrench into the ring, also another pun not intended. We see that there is a sense of character drama that the rest of the Rocky franchise, at least with the better entries, was really something that had down pat. It also sets itself apart from the rest of the franchise to where, again, Rocky Balboa is not in this movie. He is mentioned a couple of times in passing in connection to Apollo Creed, but this film really stands tall in being another evolution of the Creed character, and we see how this film just has a sense to it in terms of skill from Jordan behind the camera and also style with the flair in the action sequences, which gets right into how the boxing scenes were done. And Jordan has been open with his inspiration of anime in terms of helming those parts, and I think it is shown here with the little anime that I recall seeing when I was much younger. The way we see a lot of close-ups done in slow-mo or just certain sound effects and the effects of the hits and punches being felt and heard, yeah, that is all put into play here. And a lot of people have been talking about this too. When we get into the actual confrontation in the ring between Donnie and Dame, there is a moment to where halfway through the fight, everything is blacked out. No one is in the audience, and it is just these two in the ring together. And it's an interesting take to do a fight or boxing sequence this way, setting itself apart from the rest of the Rocky franchise. It doesn't have the same finesse or gravitas as, say, that Oner, which was in the first Creed film. What an amazing sequence to behold. But I think that Jordan adds his own flavor here that I think is fitting within the spirit of what his character is all about. And I think the way it is all paced together, running at just under 2 hours in length. I will say, though, that from the second to third act, I felt it was rushed, getting into what eventually does have Donnie and Dame in the ring together. It just flew by, and it just really came out of nowhere, with a good chunk of the movie prior being dedicated to going into more of their past and the build-up to see them come together, which did not bother me that much, as the movie was already running at a rate that was efficient for its narrative, and seeing all of the technical elements put into play, like the boxing match moments, were all well done. The music here and keeping all of the emotion and tension high. There is a brief reprise to Bill Conti's Gonna Fly Now, aka the Rocky theme in the final confrontation, which, while this isn't a Rocky film in the most concrete of senses, it's always nice to hear that. And speaking of Rocky, back then, I thought that Creed 2 was a fitting way to end his story as well as Creed's story, which, whether or not Rocky was supposed to be in Creed 3, I thought that Creed 2 was a way to send off the character, and I guess it has. But with Creed, by the time this movie does end, with it being a trilogy that I think is so strong on its own, I think there are one or two ways the franchise could continue, with some little spurts that are introduced in between, which I am open to if it means that we are getting movies like these that I think are solid onto themselves, as I really enjoyed Creed 3. Of the trilogy we now have, I would put the first Creed film at the top still, and second overall with the now 9 Rocky franchise films. And I would say that Creed 3 is right behind it and above Creed 2, which again, I think has made for a solid trio of films thus far. And if you're a fan of the Rocky franchise, I think that there is a lot of enjoyment to be had here. Even if you have just only been following the Creed films up until this point, this is something that I could say is an easy and definite recommendation. My final verdict for Creed 3 is 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Creed 3, social media links in the description, subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.